The prisoner on the alien ship room was dark, cold, and silent. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air in the center of the room. A man lay on a metal table. His hands were locked with glowing cuffs, his clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were awake. His name was John Carter. He was human. Outside the room, strange creatures moved. They were tall, with gray skin and sharp eyes. Their heads were large, and their voices sounded like metal scraping on metal. They were the Zorax, one of the strongest alien empires in the galaxy, and they hated humans. A door opened with a hiss. One of the Zorax walked in. His armor shined in the light. His name was Commander Virix. "You are awake," Virix said, looking at John like he was nothing. John didn't answer. He only stared. "Your planet is gone," Virix continued. "Your kind is finished. You're just a leftover, a weak threat." Still, John said nothing, but in his mind, he remembered everything. He remembered the sky burning when the Zorax ships came. He remembered cities falling, people screaming, and soldiers dying. He remembered the last stand on Mars Station where he was taken prisoner. They thought humans were simple, but they never understood what humans were truly made of. Virix walked closer. "You are different," he said. "You survived things no other creature could survive. You confuse our science. Your body is weak, but your mind," he paused, "your mind is dangerous. You think you scare me?" John finally spoke. His voice was calm, but cold. Virix smiled. "No, you amuse me." Then he turned and left the room. Hours passed, maybe days. John couldn't tell. They fed him through machines. They watched him from hidden cameras. They tested his blood, his skin, his brain. But what they didn't know, what they never saw, was that John was watching them too. Every beep, every door code, every guard shift, every power cycle, he remembered it all. One night, a different Zorax came in. This one was smaller, and he looked nervous. He brought food, but he also whispered, "You should not speak," the alien said quickly. "They fear your kind. They will not let you live." John looked at him. "Then why are you helping me?" The alien didn't answer. He dropped a small metal piece near the table and walked away. John looked at the object. It was small, almost nothing, but to John, it was everything. A chance. The next day, John stayed still, acting weak. The scientists came again. They poked, scanned, and talked about how human biology was strange. But John wasn't listening to them. He was watching the screen behind them, a ship layout, a map. He saw the location of the armory, the engine room, the escape pods. His plan was building second by second. Later that night, when the lights dimmed and the ship's systems went into low power mode, John made his move, using the small metal piece. He slowly worked on the cuffs. It took time, his hands bled, but finally, with a soft click, the lock opened. He was free. He didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He just stood up and moved, barefoot and silent. He slipped into the hallway. Red lights blinked. The ship was quiet. He moved like a ghost, hiding in shadows, listening for footsteps. In one room, he found a control pad. It was written in the Zorax language, but he had been studying their symbols. In minutes, he hacked the system and turned off nearby cameras. He kept moving. Then he saw it, a data core room. Inside, glowing memory chips held the secrets of the Zorax, maps, codes, plans. John plugged in a stolen chip and downloaded everything. Earth may have fallen, but now he had something powerful. Proof. Hope. Suddenly, a sound, footsteps, voices. Guards. John hid behind a crate. He held his breath. The guards passed by, talking in their strange language. One of them laughed and said, "The human is still locked, so easy to break." John smiled. Not yet, he thought, but soon he returned to the shadows, heading toward the escape pods. He needed just one chance, one launch, one jump into hyperspace. He would go back to what was left of Earth. If anything was left. Back in the lab room, a screen blinked red. Warning, human subject missing. Alarms began to ring across the ship. John was already gone. A mind they can't understand. Darkness filled the narrow hallway of the alien ship. Red lights flashed like a warning heartbeat. The alarm screamed through the corridors. But John Carter was already gone from his cell, somewhere deep inside the ship. He moved like a shadow, silent, focused, unstoppable. In the command room, panic had started. Commander Virix slammed his fist on the glass table. How did he escape? He growled. A young Zorax officer looked nervous. We do not know, Commander. We are scanning all decks. Virix's eyes glowed. A human, one human, inside our strongest ship. And you let him vanish, another officer whispered. He didn't vanish, he's hunting. Everyone went silent. John reached the engineering deck. He hid behind a wall, watching two Zorax technicians walk past. He didn't attack. He waited, thinking 5 steps ahead. He wasn't just escaping, he was studying them. He wanted to understand their systems, their rules, their weak points. The Zorax had captured him thinking he was a simple soldier, but John wasn't simple. He had been trained under Project Abyss, a secret human program made for only one purpose: to fight the kind of war aliens couldn't even imagine while other humans used weapons. John used his mind. He entered the tech lab. The door closed behind him. The room was filled with alien computers, floating data orbs, and complex machines. He walked over to a console. His fingers moved quickly. The Zorax code was strange, but he had watched it for weeks, maybe months. Within seconds, he was inside their systems. He saw logs, files, blueprints, and something else. Experiments. Not just on him, on other species, on other humans. Names. Numbers, photos. He froze. One of the names, Mira. She had been on the Mars base with him. She was alive. Maybe. Maybe not. He downloaded everything. Then the console blinked. Security alert, unauthorized access detected. Of course, John muttered. He grabbed a plasma cutter from the wall and slipped into the shadows. Just as the door opened, 3 Zorax guards walked in. One of them laughed. He's not here. Must be running like the animal he is. Then the lights went out. The next sounds were fast and sharp. Zap, crack, silence. When the lights returned, all 3 guards were down. John was already gone. In the main control deck, Commander Virix watched the security feed. Empty halls, broken doors, missing guards. He's not escaping, Virix said slowly. He's learning. Learning what? The officer asked. Virix's voice dropped. How to kill us. Back in the lower deck, John found a storage room. Inside was a device he had seen once before in a report. A neural amplifier, a weapon that attacked the brain directly. It could make any creature collapse in seconds, but for some reason, it didn't work on him. He had been tested on Earth. His mind was different, built for resistance. Trained for mental warfare. He took the device and smiled. Let's see how your minds handle fear. John moved fast now, setting traps. He used the alien tech against them, overloading doors, locking systems, sending fake alerts. Zorax soldiers chased shadows, but John was never there. They started to whisper in fear. He's not human, he's a ghost. He sees everything. Morale dropped. Fear grew. Not because John had an army. Not because he had weapons, but because he had something more dangerous, a mind they couldn't understand. At one point, a Zorax scientist tried to speak to him through the intercom. John Carter, we know you're listening. John paused. We made a mistake. The voice said, you are not like the others. Perhaps we can talk. John laughed quietly. He picked up the intercom mic. You called me a threat, he said. Now you're starting to believe it. Then he cut the line, but something else was happening. The data he downloaded showed something he didn't expect, a secret mission. Zorax forces were heading toward a location marked Origin 9 when he opened the file. His heart stopped. Origin 9 equals last known human base. Earth wasn't dead. Earth was hiding. And the Zorax had found it. He needed to escape. Not tomorrow, not later. Now. He sprinted through the halls toward the hangar bay. More guards chased him now. But they were slower, confused, scared. John wasn't running anymore. He was leading them into traps. He sealed blast doors behind him, opened airlocks to suck out supplies, burned energy shields using their own fuel. By the time he reached the hangar, alarms were screaming across the ship. Half the systems were down. The control room was locked. John had done it all with his mind and a few stolen tools. He entered a small fighter ship. The Zorax logo was painted on the side, but he didn't care. He powered up the ship. Target, Earth coordinates. The screen flashed, ready for hyperspace. As the countdown began, he looked out at the chaos behind him. Then, quietly, he said, you think you've seen what humans can do? He paused. You haven't seen anything yet. The ship vanished into hyperspace. The silent escape begins. Stars outside the cockpit were like frozen fire, beautiful, cold, and deadly. Inside the stolen alien fighter, John Carter sat alone. His hands gripped the controls, but his mind was racing far ahead. He wasn't safe yet, not even close. Behind him, the massive Zorax ship was waking up from the damage he left. Systems rebooting, guards regrouping, commanders screaming orders. They would come for him, and they would come fast. But John had something they didn't plan. Inside the fighter, alien controls blinked in a strange language. To anyone else, it would be impossible to fly, but John had spent weeks watching, learning, memorizing every system. Even the way the ship hummed as it entered hyperspace. He knew its rhythm, but suddenly beep. Warning, the ship jerked. Lights flickered. John checked the screen. Tracking signal detected. He muttered. They're following me. Of course they were. The Zorax didn't build ships without backdoors. A hidden beacon had activated, sending his exact location back to the enemy. He had minutes before they caught up. He opened the back panel of the ship, exposing the engine core. The heat burned his skin, but he didn't stop. He pulled out wires, sliced through metal, and ripped the beacon free. He crushed it under his boot. Then he smiled. Let's make this interesting. At the edge of a dead star system, he dropped Out of hyperspace, the fighter now floated in complete silence. He powered everything down, engines, shields, lights. To the Zorax, he was gone. Just another lost signal in the dark. But he wasn't lost, he was hiding and he was listening. Inside the Zorax command ship, chaos spread. We lost him, one officer said. He's not gone. Virix replied coldly. He's playing. They scanned the system, hundreds of signals. Radiation, broken satellites, dead ships. No human, and that was the point. John had vanished. And they hated not knowing where he was. Virix leaned forward. Send scout drones, full sweep. The hunt had begun. Meanwhile, John floated in the silence. His fighter ship was dark, cold, almost lifeless. He breathed slowly, saving oxygen. But his eyes were open, watching the stars, watching for movement. A blinking light appeared on his screen. One of the scout drones had entered the system. John didn't move. 2 more drones. Then 4, then 10. He waited. Still as stone. Then when the 11th drone passed his fighter, just a few meters away, he struck. With one fast move, he activated his engine for half a second. Just enough to catch the drone in his gravity lock. He pulled it close, hacked into its system, and rewrote its orders. Now, the drone thought he was friendly. John used the drone's signal to piggyback into the Zorax communication network. A dangerous move but necessary. Inside their encrypted messages, he found something terrifying. Zorax fleet, redirecting to Origin 9, mission, eliminate hidden human colony. He stared at the screen. They had found Earth, or what was left of it, and they were sending an army. His escape had bought him time but not enough. Now it wasn't just about survival. It was about warning humanity and maybe leading the first strike. He powered up the fighter again, but this time, not to run. To follow. To hunt. Back in the Zorax ship, a new report came in. Commander, a voice said. One of our drones returned false data. It claimed the human was destroyed. Virix's face darkened. He fooled us again. He looked at the stars and whispered to himself, this is not a man, this is a weapon. John's ship trailed the Zorax fleet at a distance, using asteroid fields and solar flares to hide. Inside, he loaded the stolen data core. It held everything, weaknesses in their ships, locations of their command centers, neural maps of their leaders, a list of captured humans, still alive, including Mira. His friend. Maybe more than a friend. They took her, and he was going to take her back. But first he had to warn Earth. He adjusted course. Destination, Signal Tower Epsilon, a secret deep space relay built by humans. Before the war, if it still worked, he could send a message to Earth. If it was destroyed, he had no backup. As his ship raced through dark space, he replayed a memory training camp, Project Abyss. The instructor said, humans win not because we are strong, not because we are fast, but because we never stop. John opened his eyes. Not this time either, he said. He reached the relay station. It looked dead. Burned, floating in silence. He docked carefully, entered the station. No lights, no air. But deep inside, the core still blinked, barely alive. He uploaded the warning. Message sent to all surviving humans. They're coming, prepare. Then he sent a final line just for Mira, I'm coming for you. As he left the station, he looked back once, then turned to face the stars. There was no more hiding. Now, the silent escape was over. Now, it was time to fight. Asters, the chase through the void. Message was sent. The station was dark again, cold, silent. But space was no longer quiet. John Carter had spoken, and now the galaxy was listening. From the broken signal relay, John's stolen fighter launched into the black void of space. Behind him, a shadow moved, faint, distant, but growing. The Zorax fleet was coming. He had ours at most. And nowhere to hide, but he wasn't trying to hide anymore. He was leading them into something they didn't expect. In the command deck of the lead Zorax ship, Commander Virix stood over a glowing map of stars. One red dot blinked slowly. Human signature detected. He's heading toward the grave belt. A Zorax officer said, confused, that sector is full of old wrecks, dead ships, radiation fields. Useless, not useless, Virix said coldly. He's planning something. He leaned in. Send all ships. I want him destroyed. No body. No debris, just ash. The fleet moved, hundreds of ships large and small. Hunters and warbeasts all chasing one human fighter through the stars, inside his ship. John moved fast. Sweat ran down his face. The systems were overheating. The engine was damaged, but the course was set. He wasn't going to outrun them. He was going to trap them. He entered a zone of dead space known as the Grave Belt, where a battle long ago had left thousands of ships floating in ruins. No light, no life. But John saw something else there. Opportunity. He turned off his engines again. Let the silence take over. Let the Zorax think he was finished. Then, slowly, using his fighter's limited power, he docked with an old war cruiser, human tech, half broken. Half buried in dust, he entered through a manual airlock, sealing his fighter behind him. The inside of the cruiser was a tomb, empty helmets, shattered consoles, floating weapons, but John's eyes were alive. This was a battlefield, and now it was his. He moved through the ship like a ghost, searching systems, connecting wires, rerouting power. The ship couldn't fly, but it could still fight. He activated the old defense systems missiles, EMPs. Heat bombs, a trap, a graveyard turned into a battlefield once more. He spoke softly as he worked. You wanted to see what a human can do, he said. Now you will. Minutes later, the Zorax fleet entered the grave belt. Their sensors blinked in confusion. Too much metal, too many wrecks, no clear target. He's here, Virix said, somewhere. But the fleet hesitated. They had numbers, they had weapons, but what they didn't have was certainty. Then dash boom. The first trap exploded, an old cruiser bursting with fire, tearing through to Zorax scouts. Then came another and another. Mines, lasers, shrapnel clouds. The fleet fell into chaos. Ships crashed into debris, engines failed, communications jammed. In the center of the storm, John sat inside the broken cruiser, watching it all. This was his war now. Not about power, not about ships. About strategy. About will. Virix's ship survived, barely, systems damaged, sensors fried. He stood shaking with rage. It's just one man, he roared, one human. But even he didn't believe that anymore. John's plan had one final step. He activated the cruiser's dying core, setting a delayed overload. In 2 minutes, the ship would explode, sending a wave of energy strong enough to wipe out anything nearby. He ran back to his fighter, docked, powered up, and escaped into the stars again. Behind him, the explosion bloomed like a silent sun. 10 Zorax ships vanished in an instant, the rest scattered. Broken. Far away, on a secret human station orbiting a dead moon, a signal arrived, encrypted, clear. This is John Carter, Earth is not alone. The fight has begun. Inside the station, officers stared at the screen. One of them smiled. He's alive, she whispered. The commander stood up, ready the fleet. Tell everyone humanity fights back now. Back in deep space, John floated in silence, watching the stars. He had won this round. But the war was just beginning, and he had a list, a personal list. At the top was one name, Mira. Captured. Taken. Still alive maybe. And he would find her. No matter what it cost, even if he had to burn every ship in the galaxy. Return to a hidden Earth. Stars stretched endlessly ahead, quiet and cold. But John Carter was no longer the hunted. He had become something else, a signal, a spark, a warning. And now, he was heading home. If Earth still existed, if it hadn't been destroyed. If the rumors of a hidden Earth were true, his stolen fighter limped across space, damaged from battle. Systems were failing, oxygen low, fuel even lower, but in his hands, he still carried something more valuable than any ship. Enemy fleet locations, high-level security codes, genetic data on alien soldiers, and the last known coordinates of captured humans, including Mira. He had one mission now: reach Earth, deliver the truth, start the counterstrike. His fighter approached a dust-covered planet called Vestinine. It looked dead, nothing but rock and ice, but John knew better. He entered a code deep in the system. A code burned into his memory since his training days. The planet responded, the clouds above its surface twisted, and for a moment, the stars blinked out. Something massive uncloaked, a satellite station, no, a fortress. Invisible to alien scans. Buried beneath the asteroid belt. Powered by Earth's last military AI. The voice that greeted him was mechanical but familiar. Welcome, Agent Carter, Earth awaits. As he docked, a small group of humans stood ready in dark uniforms. Some stared in disbelief. He was supposed to be dead. Only legends spoke of Project Abyss survivors. Now one stood before them, real. Tired, bleeding, but alive. He stepped into the control chamber. A massive hologram lit up, showing Earth, but not the Earth from old maps. This was Earth, now hidden behind a cloaking shield, orbiting fields of scrap metal that mimicked a destroyed world. A brilliant lie. A ghost planet, and it had worked. Zorax scanners saw only ruins. But beneath the surface, Earth had evolved, cities deep underground, AI defense grids, training centers, labs, factories. And soldiers, millions of them, quiet, waiting. John stood in silence. For the first time in years, he was home. He was rushed into the war room. Screens showed enemy fleet movement, signals, spy drone footage. The council sat in silence as John stepped forward and dropped the data core onto the central console. This, he said, is everything. As the data loaded, gasps filled the room, maps of Zorax supply routes, security codes to their cloning facilities, and the location of an off-grid prison world. One of the officers leaned in. This name's Mira. She's alive. John nodded. She was, 2 weeks ago. The room went quiet. Then the commander of the base, an older woman with a scar running down her jaw, stood You want us to go after her? I want to go, John replied, alone if I have to, and what do you want in return? John looked at her, his voice didn't shake. I want the war back, across Earth's secret colonies. A call was sent out, Project Phoenix's. Active Humanity Strikes Back, factory lines began, ships powered up. Fighters were pulled from sleep chambers. Engineers ran through steel corridors, the fire had returned, and the flame had a name, John Carter. Later that night, standing on the edge of a launch bay, John looked at Earth through the viewing window. Green lights danced below the clouds, storms rumbled. It wasn't the same planet he remembered, but maybe that was a good thing now. Earth was something more. Stronger, sharper. Silent but ready to scream. Behind him, a new ship waited. It wasn't alien. It wasn't old. It was human. Fast, deadly, built for one pilot. And its name was carved into the hull, Black Phoenix. His. As he prepared to board, the commander approached him one last time. You sure you want this fight? John didn't even turn. They started it. He paused. Now I finish it. The engines lit up with white fire. John launched back into the stars, no longer as a prisoner, now as a sword. And the first target? The prison world. Where the Zorax kept their secrets, and where Mira might still be alive. But the Zorax weren't sleeping. In a hidden sector of space, Virix stood in front of a tall figure cloaked in dark armor, not a commander, not a general. The emissary, one of the alien empire's true leaders. One human escaped your fleet. The emissary said, he destroyed your hunters, he broke your code. Virix bowed his head. He is more than human. The emissary stared at the stars. No, he is the beginning of something we feared. He turned. Find him. Burn every colony if you must. Kill him before Earth remembers what it truly is. Too late. Earth already remembered. And John was bringing the war to their front door. Asterisk, the war they didn't expect. Stars above Earth shimmered with silence. But deep below the planet's surface, something had changed. Engines roared, steel platforms trembled, troops marched through underground launch bays, their boots like thunder in the dark. For years, Earth had been silent, watching, waiting. Now it was waking up. And at the center of it all stood one man, John Carter. In the heart of Earth's hidden command, he stood before the War Council. Screens lit up with alien maps, fleet movements, and attack plans. The council leader, General Thorne, spoke with a voice like steel. You've shown us their weak points. We've confirmed your data. Now it's time we hit back. John nodded. Not just hit, break them. A long pause followed. Then Thorne pointed to a blinking red zone on the map, Sector K91. We start here. A Zorax fuel colony, lightly guarded, but crucial to their deep space fleet. Someone in the room asked, and what if they see us coming? John didn't blink. They won't. 3 days later, 5 human stealth cruisers left Earth's shadow and slipped into deep space, silent, invisible, deadly. Among them flew Black Phoenix. Piloted by John himself, each ship carried a mission. But John had something more, a name. Mira. The coordinates he stole from the Zorax still burned in his mind. She was being held at a remote prison lab far beyond the colony. He had one chance to find her before she was moved or erased. He didn't tell the others. Some wars are fought with armies, some are fought alone. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the Zorax sat in arrogance. The last report they had claimed humans were shattered, lost, broken. So when their colony in Sector K91 noticed a signal echo, no one paid attention. By the time they did, it was too late. Human ships dropped out of stealth like falling daggers. Laser beams tore through Zorax defenses. Missiles slammed into towers. Mechs poured out of drop pods, silent and deadly. Zorax soldiers screamed, unprepared for a war they thought had ended. Inside the chaos, John's voice came over the comms. This is for every city you burned, for every name you erased. Boom's central power core exploded. The Zorax colony was turned to ash. In the command halls of the Zorax Empire, alarms echoed. High Commander Virix stood watching the feeds. Who gave them this power? He shouted. No one answered, because there was no power given. It was taken. By fire, by will, by revenge. At the same time, John slipped away from the battlefield. Black Phoenix shot into hyperspace, heading toward the edge of the galaxy, toward a planet known only as UR-OTH-17. The prison world. Where the stolen files said Mira was kept. A place with no sunlight. No escape. No hope. Perfect for a rescue mission. As John approached the planet, his ship was hit with interference radio noise. Static, then a voice. You shouldn't have come, human. He frowned. You're too late to stop me. But the voice wasn't Zo or Axe. It was something else. Something older. The prison was not just a lab, it was a testing ground. For what? John didn't know yet. But whatever it was, they weren't just hiding prisoners, they were building something. Terrifying. He landed in the black sands of UR-OTH-17. Dark towers loomed above him, covered in alien writing. Inside, he moved like a shadow. No guards. No alarms. To quiet. Then he found a troves of cryo-pods. Hundreds of species frozen, steadied, erased. And there, near the back, Mira, her face pale, her eyes closed, but alive, he smashed the glass. Her body collapsed into his arms. John, she whispered, half awake. You came, always, he said. But they weren't alone. Behind him, something stirred, a tall figure. Wrapped in Zorak's armor, twisted, upgraded, inhuman, a voice echoed from it. We wanted you to come. We needed you here. John raised his weapon. Who are you? The voice laughed. The future. And it attacked. What followed was not a fight. It was a test. The creature wasn't just strong, it knew John's moves, predicted them, matched him strike for strike. It had been trained, using his own data. John was fighting a version of himself, faster, colder, remade by alien hands. He barely survived, only by triggering the cryo core and overloading the chamber. Did he escape with Mira in his arms? He sprinted to the ship, took off, the lab exploded behind them. But as they left orbit, sensors showed something terrifying. The Zorak's fleet was moving. Thousands of ships, heading straight for Earth, back in orbit. Mira opened her eyes. They're coming, she whispered. John nodded. Good, he turned the ship. Let's show them the war they didn't expect. On Earth, alarms blared. Defense grids lit up. Troops gathered. Above them, the sky filled with steel wings. And for the first time in 100 years, humanity was not afraid. It was ready. You called me a threat, now watch. Sky above Earth cracked open, not with thunder, but with ships. Zorak's war fleets, thousands strong, rushed out of hyperspace. Stretching across the stars like a black sea of metal, they blocked sunlight, covered the moon. Their engines roared with one purpose, destroy Earth. Inside Earth's main command center, the alarm never stopped ringing. Generals shouted, pilots ran, screens lit up with enemy positions. And at the center stood John Carter and Mira, side by side, watching it all unfold. No fear in their eyes, only fire. General Thorne's voice boomed across the base, all units, prepare for last stand. John stepped forward, calm and clear. Not last stand, he said, first strike. People looked at him. He wasn't just a soldier now, he was a symbol. The man who escaped the unescapable. The one who humiliated the Zoraks, the one they couldn't break. He stood at the edge of the war map, staring at the fleet. They called us weak, he said. They called us extinct. He turned. They called me a threat. He paused. Then smiled. Now, watch. Above, Earth's hidden weapon platforms emerged from the oceans, from the mountains. From beneath the desert sands, cloaking fields dropped. And humanity stood revealed, not broken, but evolved. And angry. I battle cruisers powered up, orbital cannons locked in. The old Earth was gone. This was something new, something built in silence, born in loss, raised in rage. In the Zorak's flagship, Commander Virex stood before the Grand War screen. We have them surrounded, his officer said, but Virex didn't speak. He stared at the screen showing one human ship at the front of the Earth fleet. Black Phoenix. He growled, John Carter. And then it began. Earth fired first, a massive energy beam shot from the Arctic cannon, slicing through 3 Zorak's cruisers. Then human fighters launched, sleek, fast, agile, dodging fire, striking like blades. John led the charge, Black Phoenix screaming through the void. Behind him, Mira flew the second ship, White Echo. Together, they tore through enemy lines, punching a hole straight into the heart of the Zorak's fleet. Inside enemy ships, chaos reigned, their weapons glitched. Their formations broke. They couldn't adapt. They had prepared for a planet. Not for a people who refused to die. John broke through enemy shields and stormed the flagship alone. He breached the hull, entered with nothing but a plasma blade and pure hate inside. Zorak soldiers attacked, but none could stop him. He was no longer just a man. He was the answer to everything they feared. At the end of the corridor, he reached the command bridge. Virex stood waiting. You should not be alive, the alien snarled. John walked forward, weapon lowered. You called me weak. He kept walking. You called me broken. He stood right in front of him. You called me a threat. Then, suddenly John dropped his weapon. Virex looked confused. Then John pulled a device from his suit, small, blinking. This is not a weapon, John said. This is your truth. He activated the device. Every Zorak ship, every terminal began broadcasting a hidden message. Zorak's war crimes. The genocide of 14 species, secret experiments. The truth. Across the galaxy, their allies turned against them. Civil wars broke out in their colonies. The empire began to collapse, not with bombs, but with truth. John stepped closer. You didn't lose because we were stronger, he said. You lost because you made us remember who we are, and with one punch, he sent Virex crashing into the control console. Then walked away. The flagship exploded behind him. From Earth, the humans watched as the Zorak's fleet began to retreat, leaderless. Broken, scattered. Earth didn't chase them. It didn't have to. They were already finished, hours later. On the battlefield ruins above Earth, John and Mira stood at the top of a human ship. Looking at the stars, they were quiet. Then Mira asked, "Is it really over?" John looked up. "Not over," he said, "but it's our sky again." She smiled. He looked down at Earth. The green, the clouds, the lights. He whispered, "They called me a threat." He turned toward the stars. "Now they'll call me something else," she asked. "What?" He looked at her. And smiled. "Human."